Welcome to the No BS Spiritual Book Club's live streaming interview series, where leading new thought teachers, speakers, and authors share the intimate stories behind the 10 best spiritual books that inspired them the most on their spiritual journey. From well-known classics to hidden gems you might never have heard of, the No BS Spiritual Book Club saves you time and money by sharing reliable recommendations from those who've walked the path before you. The No BS Spiritual Book Club, the only no BS guide to the best spiritual books to inspire your own journey of self-discovery. Here's your host, founder of the No BS Spiritual Book Club, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. How does a world-renowned opera singer become a leading voice in the field of sound healing? For Professor Jeralyn Glass, the path began with unimaginable loss, the death of her only son, Dylan. But in that darkness, something unexpected emerged, a calling to use vibration, resonance, and crystalline sound as a path of healing. Jeralyn Glass joins me today to share the 10 books that cracked her open, guided her through grief, and helped her remember who she really is. We'll be talking about the healing power of voice, how sound bypasses the intellect and speaks to the soul, and why music truly is medicine. The 10 books she's chosen to trace the evolution of her journey from early awakenings to deep spiritual remembrance reflect the wisdom, grace, and soul that now infuse her life and work. More than a story of loss, hers is a story of transmutation and a reminder that when words fail, frequency still speaks. Jeralyn Glass, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sandie. It's a wonderful, wonderful joy to be with you again.
You too. You tell me a little bit about your relationship with books, because, there's something in there that really touched my heart, because the kinds of books you read as a child are exactly the same kinds of books that I read.
I mean, as a child, I just loved to read. Reading was that sacred space where I could curl up and just drop into other worlds and learn. And I remember there was one summer where the library had, there was like a summer reading challenge. And I remember I read 90 books that summer. And it was just, yeah, I especially loved at that point in time, I especially loved fairy tales. So there was all kinds of collections of fairy tales from different countries. And I loved to explore. That was one thing as a young person, as a child, that I really loved to read. So yeah. I think books were always, they were an opening, a portal into. It's hard to put it in words, right? Because you're reading the words, but they create a space with you that nothing else can do. Music can, but yeah.
Yeah, I did exactly the same. It was folk tales from every country that I could find, those fairy tales and folk tales. For me, it was like I knew these fairies existed.
Right.
And you just want to find them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start talking about your 10 best. Your first book is Demian by Hermann Hesse, published in 1919. And you said that this book came to you like a soul mirror. Tell me more.
Wow. I mean, I've read it a number of times. And then once I lived in Germany and learned German, I then read it in the original German later in life. But I just remember the line that said, I want only to live in accordance with the promptings that come from my true self. Why was this so very difficult? And I remember that as a young person, like that, it was like, why is it that we can't just trust our guidance, our intuition, our knowing, our inner wisdom? Even as a young person, I had that deep, deep, deep connection to God, however you want to name it, to something bigger, to the soul. And I remember reading that, and that story was just like, why is that so difficult? Why can't we just trust that? And that sort of opened that door, Sandie, of how do we do that? How do we do that?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? We listen to everybody else, and then we let what they tell us as truth become our truth.
Yes.
Forget what our soul is saying.
I think that was, and I loved all the writings of Hesse. So, I mean, it was hard to choose. I loved Siddhartha. I loved Narcissus and Goldman. I mean, I loved, and then I have like just his prose. So I read a lot of Hesse before I even went to Germany. You know, he was just one of my favorite authors.
Well, he comes up again and again with Siddhartha, but I don't think we've ever had Demian.
Yeah.
You're the first.
Yeah, it was just recognizing this young person that sort of felt out of place or was struggling. And I don't know, that was really, why can't I just listen to the promptings that come from my true self? Why is that so challenging? Why? Yeah, it's hard to put it even more into words than that, but just the struggle of, you're born a unique individual, and yet everything in the world around you, and this was, in school, everything in the world around you teaches you to try to copy somebody else. So there's something so poignant to me about that line. I mean, that's really what I took away from the book. Is I want to be able to listen to the promptings that come from my true self. I want to be able to live those promptings.
That's a wonderful mantra.
Yeah.
Yeah. So book number 2, Be Here Now, Ramdas, published in 1971. You said, didn't just speak to me, it vibrated.
I mean, that was like, I read that when I was in high school, and I just remember I had it on I had a bookshelf, a bookcase in my bedroom, and I would always pull that out, and I like to look at the pictures, and, there's all kinds of beautiful drawings, and yeah, it has a vibration to it. I didn't know really who he was, anything about anything, or about the psychedelic movement or anything, but I loved the simplicity, and I loved also this idea of be here now. Again, like that knocked on a door that was deeply spiritual as a young person. Again, asking these questions of, who am I? Why am I here? And I loved it. I remember all the sacred geometry kind of things, and then just little quotes in there, little poems, little pieces of prose that was just, I don't know. I love to deep dive into that, just look at it for even a couple of minutes and then go back to my homework. It was a staple, especially during high school.
Yeah, I was going to say, for someone so young to be reading that book, I wouldn't think that happens too often.
And I don't know how I found it. I can't remember how I found that book. I don't remember. So somehow it was on my shelf, and it was just so interesting, again, with all the, it was a paperback, and it was colorful, and then it had all these drawings in it and these symbols. And I think I must have always been fascinated by sacred geometry and symbols. And yeah, I think once I left geometry in school and went into algebra 2 and then trigonometry, it was like, it wasn't as interesting. I really liked geometry. I liked the idea of shapes. And there was something about that, his book, that connected space, time, spirit, sound. I don't know. I'm not sure that I can put that into words, but I just know that I love to leaf through that book and just think about it, reflect on what you were saying.
There's a connection between music and mathematics, isn't there? People say if you're good at, maths, you're going to be good at music. I was lousy at maths, so I've never picked up an instrument. But yeah, I can understand that correlation.
Yeah, not that I would have recognized it at that time, per se, but
yeah. Book number 3, The Search for Bridie Murphy.
Oh my
by
gosh.
Maury Bernstein, published in 1956. You read this in the 5th grade.
Sandie. Okay, so I will never forget that. I was in a car driving with one of my friends, and her mother was driving, and we were in Girl Scouts together. I was in the 5th grade and then going into the 6th grade. And she started talking to Mom about this book about hypnosis. And I don't remember how hypnosis came up, but she said, you have to check this book out from the library and you have to read this. And I started to read it and I was just like, wait, what? First of all, how can someone hypnotize you? And I mean, I was fascinated with hypnosis. And then later I actually took a class. But it was like, and I would ask my parents, like, how could this woman be hypnotized? And then she speaks with an Irish brogue and she dances an Irish jig. Because I think I was always fascinated with past lives. I didn't call it that either, but like the depth of the soul. Like, why is it that the soul knows certain things? And the idea that she spoke and danced with this Irish background was fascinating to me. It's really, I was blown away. That blew me away. And I loved that girl, Elizabeth, and I loved her mother, because her mother, put this little tidbit in this young person's, I think I was 11, turning 11, around that age. It was just like, there's a whole world out there, Sandie, that is beyond the logical. And like, how do you actually hypnotize? And I just thought it was fascinating, his passion about discovering, do we really have past lives, and do we really have past life memories?
Yeah.
Did you read the book?
That I did, and I was quite young when I read it, not as young as you, but again, it fascinated me too. The whole idea that under hypnotherapy you could access, past lives. Wow.
Yeah, I remember learning like how to access your subconscious, like practicing a certain kind of. So I went with, actually, and I'll talk about her in a minute when you ask about one of the books, but my singing teacher was very open to all this sort of stuff. And so I went with her 3 kids, and we did a hypnosis class together. And, I just remember the lady teaching us like how you count down slowly backwards from 10, 9, and just like practicing, in the 6th grade, like practicing, I guess a form of meditation, or a form of going into the deeper realms. That was very interesting to me. I was fascinated by this world beyond what we see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's music too, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Book number 4 is by one of your teachers, Vocal Wisdom, Maxims of Giovanni Battista Lamperti. I'm not sure if I'm even pronouncing that right. Transcribed by William Earl Brown.
Okay.
And you said it changed your life.
Oh my gosh. So I have the hard copy of it. But this is, my teacher gave me the hard copy again. She's 103 right now, but this also fascinates me. So, this is wisdom taken from this, Lamperti, and Lamperti, the maxims of Lamperti. And like, for example, one quote that was from this that I read a lot was, don't sing until you die if you didn't. And, it's just like Lamperti said, don't sing until you die if you didn't. Like, there is a relationship, psychological and physiological, between the desire to sing and the body, similar to that between the necessity to sneeze and the muscular system. So, not by movement, but by sensation, do you control the delivery of your song. I mean, I just remember that, like, don't sing unless you die if you didn't. And my teacher teaching me about just like having a passion for something, and like really recognizing like singing for me is like food. It's a nourishment. It's a nurturing. I had to sing. And again, I started with her at age 11. And, I had sung a solo in the 6th grade, and people said to my parents, she's talented. What are you going to do? And, there wasn't The Voice or America's Got Talent or any of those shows. And they took me to my teacher, who really, she's 103. I just visited her. She just had her 103rd birthday. And she was really open to, I mean, I could have these kind of spiritual conversations with her as a young person, like, wow. And, there's so much, being called vocal wisdom. There was just so much, know thyself. You gain nothing by imitating another. It was just principles that I still look at today. And he was a very famous voice teacher, so, an Italian. My mom just told me the other day that When I first started studying with her, name is Annette Warren. When I first started studying with her, she said to my mom, I think she was Italian in a past life. And my mom was like, wait, what? And she was like, she goes through those Italian exercises and when I teach her the Italian pronunciation, like as if she already knows it. So again, there was something about this vocal wisdom, this book it's, not just for singers. I mean, there's a lot of things in it, obviously for singers, but it also makes the connection to me about being an athlete, that you're like a vocal athlete. So there's a lot of principles here just about our human instrument and why is that important, that it's identified as yours and unique, and why it's grounded, and why do you free it? How do you free it? Again, going back to, I only wanted to live in accordance with the promptings which came from my true self. Why is that so difficult? Like, how do we find, Sandie, this place where we know we're a unique human instrument, and then we give ourselves the permission to express it? I think all the books that I put on my list have that kind of theme of exploration.
You know, what strikes me about your story, I hear again and again from guests that, books turned up at the right time in their life, magically fell off shelves, someone gave it to them, etc. I have a friend who talks about how before we come here, when we're planning the life, we plant crystals on our path, as he calls them, people, books, little things that are going to show up at just the right time. It seems to me that, from a really early age, you were picking up those crystals.
It's so interesting. It really is interesting, because then you find that thread throughout your whole life. Like, this was a really interesting assignment, and I couldn't do it fast. Like, I really had to think about it. And then I had a number of other books on the list. I was like, actually, no, really try to identify for Sandie and her audience what were the most influential books. And that was hard, because I really loved to read. It was very hard. Like, there were others that I then eventually eliminated. But I think this one was really, really important to understand that singing and this expression, this natural expression of your human instrument, went back hundreds of years. And here was this master that had so much wisdom that I could absolutely relate to as a young woman, as a young girl. So interesting to me. And this tradition that beyond the language, there's a philosophy. I mean, also just thinking about that Hermann Hesse was German, Lamperti was Italian. Like, these weren't necessarily John Steinbeck or, traditional kinds of, I don't know. There was something about books and about music that is universal. I never thought about these things till you prompted this.
Well, also, I mean, you said your teacher thought you must have been Italian. Maybe you had a previous life as an Italian. But Italian and German, I mean, these are great opera languages.
I didn't think about that either.
Clues are all there.
Yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, I'm sure you find this, that when you start to explore what matters or what books have been influential in your life, it does open the door to past lives. Or why did I have this inkling towards German and German philosophy? Why towards Italian? Why was that meaningful? Yeah, again, fascinated by that Bridie Murphy, the search for Bridie Murphy, that she could speak with an Irish brogue, and I was like trying to learn it and practice. Like, could I do that? It was like, no, and then dance an Irish jig. Like, that was just, wow. Like, mom and dad, how does that happen? She's not an actor. So,
yeah. It's only when we look back that we do see the dots, joining up.
Books were really, I mean, I would really close the door and just curl myself up in my room and just read. That was my thing after school. I mean, again, or going to the library and just sitting. And when my son was little, like, what he loved to do most of all when we would visit the United States was go to the Barnes and Noble and just sit for hours. It was like, mommy, no, I don't want to go. Like, there's something about the books open a world, and obviously before computers and all the stuff you can do on the internet now. But before that, it was like you put a book in your hand and it's a soft cover, like what I was saying about the Be Here Now. It was a soft cover, and Damien that I read was a soft cover. The Lamperti's Vocal Wisdom, that was a hardcover. It was a blue, like cloth bound. Like there was also something tactile about the experience of reading a book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm glad that you had an
Cool.
opportunity to go into that space and gain so much out of, looking back at the books that really did create a big influence, and the whys. Yeah. So book number 5, Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, 1992. You said this was like a homecoming for you, reading this book.
I mean, when I look through it now, I mean, there are underlines all throughout the book, underlines, exclamation points. And, this is a kind of book that you read maybe not even chapter at a time, like sometimes, like chapter 6, Finding One's Pack, Belonging as a Blessing. I just loved the way, oh my gosh, and this is crazy, but I just opened to this and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. There's a little pressed dried flower in there.
Oh, I see it.
I just loved her way of expressing. Again, there's just so many markings, like it is commingling with the soul that causes us to glow bright with spirit, willing to assert our talents, whatever they might be. So it's like, I don't know, she gave me sort of this permission to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, and like not to be afraid of that. And just the importance of having your tribe, your people, and this analogy of women who run with the wolves. Like there was a wildness, a wildness to being a woman and to your life and to howling. And I don't know, I read this when I was living in Germany as a young singer. So this was really important in shaping, as my career was expanding and expanding. This was something kind of like that I would read all the time. Did you read this too, right?
I've listened to it on audio.
Yeah.
Mm.
I like this too. I think there's just so many good things in it. How might a woman's creative life become polluted? And this sludging of creative life invades all the 5 phases of creation: inspiration, concentration, organization, implementation, and sustenance. So like, yeah, I don't know, there were so many incredible principles in here of, as a young woman creating a career in Germany, in a foreign country. And then there was this primal aspect of what it means to be a woman and be a creative. Was very nurturing and nourishing to me. And I really admired her. I don't know. For me, that book was, it was so unusual. I don't think I had read anything that opened those kinds of doors before her book. And it was a really crucial time in my life, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Many women say that, and men too.
Yeah.
Men who have found it incredibly moving.
Does this one come on your list often?
It pretty, it's not in the top 20, but it is frequent. It is frequent.
Yeah, and I loved her style of writing. It was really beautiful.
Mm. So book number 6, now this one does appear in the top 20, The Prophet, Khalil Gibran, 1923. And again, you found this one as a teenager too.
This was also next to Be Here Now. And I think just all of it, I don't know. I also loved reading the Bible. Like I loved reading different stories from the Bible. And I had we had gone to the Holy Lands when I was 16. So I had a New Testament Bible, a special one that had olive wood cover. So I liked reading the different stories, but there was something about this that took principles like, I loved this one, Speak to Us of Children. Yeah. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. I don't know, just to sit as a teenager and read this it was so deep. And it was such a strong connection to God and to just deep philosophy about life. But I remember especially reading reading about children, and then this one, speak to us of joy and sorrow. And he answered, your joy is your sorrow unmasked. Like kind of learning as a young person that joy and sorrow go hand in hand. It's like, wait, really? Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those books that there are pieces that stand out. For me, the line you read about the children and the one about marriage, relationship, partnership, which I thought, stuck with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of this one, what speak to us of giving. And he says, you give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. And I don't know, that has become integrated in my life also. And that's part of when I'm teaching like the sacred science of sound, when I'm teaching the trainings. And one of the pillars is generosity and service. And just the joy that we get as human beings from giving from our hearts. So there was like real philosophy that, I mean, you can see it's all it's all chewed up. I've had this for so many years, but I know you really made me remember how much I love books and how they're treasure. They're really treasures. Because it's a whole different thing when if I would look this up on the internet, which I haven't done, but it's a whole different thing to hold this in your hand and to feel the words come out from the page, and just there's so much love in that. I don't experience that same kind of love from the computer.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Book number 7. Again, this one definitely in the top 10. You Can Heal Your Life, Louise Hay, 1984. I don't know anyone who hasn't read this book.
Yeah. That's why it was so, I mean, that sat at so especially also when I moved to Germany. First of all, when I was a young singer studying in Switzerland at the Zurich Opera, that was at my bedside. And that I would just look at every day, say meditations around her affirmations. And then when I moved to Germany, same thing. Like it always sat at my bedside. It was something, oh, this is going on. Maybe Louise Hay can help me with that. And then to be taken as a Hay House author, like that was just so wonderful. It is so wonderful to be associated with her legacy, because I think she really opened the door for so many people for self-healing and for the power inherent within us. Going back to Damien, I want to live in accordance with my true promptings, and Louise gave you kind of like a roadmap how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, 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 it is a very, very important book. I have the new edition now.
Yeah. Book number 8, Sacred Vibrations, The Transformative Power of Crystalline Sound and Music by Jeralyn Glass, published in 2024.
Yeah, we just had our, on July 23rd was the year anniversary. And I was back and forth. Well, do you include your own book? And I just felt my whole life has been about living my life to be able to write that book. And to share with people the story of music, the story of your soul purpose, understanding as a young person, okay, you're going to go into this life in music, and trusting that, just always the connection to the listening, the intuition, the hearing, the understanding, the knowing, and then trusting that and acting on it and living your life as that. And all the places that it took me, and then how music wrapped its arms around me and has been my life for as long as I can remember.
Yeah. And it's perfectly okay, I tell authors, or any guest coming on, you can have one of your own books, because writing a book truly is a transformative process, and if you're going to talk about the books, that impacted you greatly, then writing your own book, that must have been a huge, catharsis. It offers so many wonderful benefits to tell your story.
And
so yes, it deserves its place here.
Okay, number 8, and that right is number 8.
Yeah.
And that's a sacred number. I mean, I just remember there were moments like, can I really write about my son's passing? Like, can I write about the real feelings in the moment of, that's the phone call that every parent dreads. And then what happens when you recognize this is my life, this is real, because your mind goes, not my life, not my child, not my, no, not, wasn't in the plan, right? And I remember there were moments of just asking my editor, like, can I write about that? And then moments of writing certain things and then weeping about it and then deciding, yes, that can go in and no, that can't. But just, yeah, really setting boundaries with yourself. What is private, what is intimate, what remains mine, what would I like to share with humanity? I mean, it's a deeply cleansing process to go through this kind of book, writing this kind of book, and then integrating all the sound and the tools and the music as medicine. And yeah, it was definitely also physically really demanding, like to sit sometimes way into the wee hours or do all-nighters. I always say that writing a book is not for the faint of heart. It's just not.
It's not. No, it's not.
Yeah. So.
And having read it and having interviewed you about it, I have to say it is a beautiful book. It's a very poignant, touching story. I could come out with lots of superlatives, but it is so heartfelt, and I don't have the vocabulary right now to say all that it was for me, but it is a beautiful book and I do recommend it.
Thank you, Sandie. That means the world, really, from you. What a process.
So book number 9, The Energy Codes, the 7-step system to awaken your spirit, heal your body and live your best life, by Dr. Sue Morter, published in 2019. And there's a story behind this, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I found Dr. Sue after Dylan passed, and, we had seen many of the high places in the world. We had seen Mount Everest and Chamonix, and he was a big ski racer and loved the outdoors. And so Machu Picchu was on our bucket list, and he had been communicating with me since he passed. And about 2 months after, he said, "Mom, we're going to Machu Picchu." I'm like, okay, who are we going with? And then I opened the computer and Googled spiritual journeys to Machu Picchu, and that's how I found her. And I think we talked about this but this happened, that this is at the top of Machu Picchu, that she's holding Dylan's picture, and she was so generous and loving to do this ritual for him. And I didn't make it up the mountain. I was too devastated that day. I had fallen into grief the night before, so I wasn't with them. She did it without me, and that changed everything for me, Sandie, to see that beam of light. And and then I started studying with her. When I came back from the Machu Picchu trip, my family was like, whoever that is and whatever you've done, keep doing it, because it was the only thing that at first brought some sort of relief from just the grief. And so I began studying with her. I made a promise to do something of her classes every month. And she wrote about my story in her book, and we've become dear friends and collaborate together. I play music for her a lot. I'll be playing for an event she's doing in October in Santa Fe. And I don't know, that book, The Principles of the Energy Codes, really laid a foundation for the way I've been able to move through grief and transmute it and transform it and create a life that has a purpose again to it. Because after my son passed, it was like, I don't want to live anymore. Oh. So I can't say enough about the energy codes. And Dr. Sue taught, the main thing that I think was really important in that book is the principle of embodiment. And of course, when we go through deep things, it's like, I don't want to feel that. To take the grief away, don't ask me to embody it. Forget it. And I think the book really teaches you all kinds of ways, tools. There's a wonderful toolkit in there, but the main thing I think I took away is the importance of embodiment and how you do it. It's not in your head. Transformation doesn't happen just there. I mean, your thoughts, of course, influence everything, and that's the epigenetics. Those are other books that I love, like by Dr. Bruce Lipton. But Dr. Sue's book, I think, and I was privileged to be a guest at her book launch, so I got to sing, and yeah, it just means the world to me, that all those principles of how do we have the bigger picture understanding of why things in our lives happen. Can we take the bird's eye view? Can we see beyond the human pain in our story? Can we see there's a bigger purpose? And the book really exemplifies that, teaches that. Yeah.
So book number 10, Vibrate Higher Daily, Live Your Power by Lala Delia, published in 2019.
Layla is a dear friend, and I don't know, I love this book. Have you read this book?
I have not read this book. No, this is the first time I've heard of it.
I think you would love it. It really is about, I use this a lot in my work too. Like just for example, if it lowers your vibration, it's not for you. That's how you'll know. If it raises your vibration, it's for you. That's how you'll know. Vibrations are guidance. Pay attention to your vibration and internal cues. Stay mindful of how your vibration is responding to stimuli. I mean, a lot of it is simple, but for me, and there's some very just beautiful stories that Layla has in here. But she speaks about vibration, and I think there's a lot of talk in today's world about raising your vibration or raising your frequency, keeping your frequency positive, etc. I love how she's written about this. It's something I refer to also regularly. I share with my students. I think, Sandie, again, that we have the power to change our frequency, that we have the power through our thoughts, through our actions, through how we nurture and nourish ourselves. For me, a lot of that has to do with music. And of course, the word vibrate is like, yes, that's my singing bowls, etc. That's my voice. But for me, Layla's book helps to guide me back to my power always. It's empowering. And she speaks about vibrations as it's really a choice. So I could choose after Dylan's death, I could choose to stay in those low vibrations of just grief, or I could open to what are other possibilities. And I talk about because it's two things. Like Dr. Sue in her book talks about an energy like grief is very grounding. You don't want to push it away. You want to be able to feel it because grief can be very grounding. And yet if you sit in it, it twists, right? If you sit in it too long and stay in the story of it, whereas Layla is really talking about, so how do you land in the grief, breathe it, feel it, and then elevate yourself to vibrate higher, like to let that grief transform, like what it said in the prophet, sadness and joy, or grief and joy are the other sides of the coin, right? So when I think about having this conversation with you, and thank you so much for asking me and for giving me this assignment, they're all related. All the books are all related.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? And I see that pretty frequently. Mm-hmm. It's almost like tailored to the individual,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the 10th book. I was going to ask you a question, which you've really pretty much just answered, talking about your 9th and 10th books. I was going to say that, what happened to you, your loss. Many people run from grief, but you chose to meet it head on and transform through it. And I was going to ask you what gave you that strength, but you've just told us, Sue's book had something to do with it. Lala's book helped to give you the strength. What else gave you strength to meet that head on and just go through it?
It's such a good question because I met Sue. Dylan passed on March 27th, and I met Sue June 7th. And I remember when I walked into the room at the hotel in Cusco and I saw her, I started weeping. It was as if I knew her. I mean, and she was so gracious. She didn't know what happened. She didn't know me, but it was just, I mean, the tears just started streaming. And, so I'm thinking about from March until June, it was just, I think when life gives you a whammy like that, or like, you get a diagnosis or someone close to you in your whatever, in your family or whatever it is, I just knew that I couldn't run from it. And I knew that if I tried to avoid it and, drank or did drugs or whatever, whatever, that it would never disappear. That was the reality that I think I began to understand, like thinking back to the Bridie Murphy and thinking back to this fascination with what is life beyond? What's life beyond this Jeralyn Glass? Like, was Jeralyn Glass an Italian? Was Jeralyn Glass a German? Who was she? Was she male? Was she female? What was she? Like, just the idea that I had to sit in those feelings, and that, I would say to Dylan, like as he started to become a teenager, like, when he was in Germany, like, because they can drink beer very easily. You can drink it as a teenager. It's not as strict as in the United States. And it was just like, if you're drinking or whatever, don't ever get in a car. Like, I would just try to speak with him about, just that some things in life, you don't get a second chance, right? That there's some things you just need to know. I don't do that. I don't cross that boundary. And just recognizing, like, it was black and white. He wasn't coming back. Like, and try and pray and do whatever I could do. Death is final. And yet then I learned, by opening in this way, death wasn't final. It's just it's another state. And he and I can continue to have a relationship. No, I can't hug him. I can't watch him grow. He won't have a partner and possibly have children or have a career or whatever. I won't see that, but I can be in touch with that spirit. And I think on some deep level from what we're sharing, like, I knew that there is a soul, that there's something beyond this physical body, but I had no idea. I think confronting his death really brought home all the things we've been talking about. And that if I didn't do that, I would be a miserable person for the rest of my life. And I think I might have shared with you that there was a moment pretty shortly afterwards where I remember just laying in bed and just going, if you can't find something to do, you're never going to get out of your bed, because, your whole world stops. And that was the moment of really feeling you need to be able to do something, Jeralyn. You can't just wallow in your own grief for the rest of your life, because I'll never get out of I remember that moment. I'll just never get out of my bed. Okay. So how do you put your feet on the floor? And it was step by step, meeting Dr. Sue, saying yes to that, going to a strange country all by myself and a strange group of people. So I think it's just that piece inside me that knew as a young child, I'm going to have a path in music. It's what we all have, that inner voice that says, knock, knock. And sometimes it has to knock, knock quite loudly before we hear it. And sometimes it's less loud and you hear it immediately. Sometimes it's persistent. But I think it's listening to that inner guidance that you say, come on, pick yourself up by the bootstrap. Come on. Got to get out of your bed, Jeralyn. How is life going to look? And how do we accept in our lives the things that, terrorize us? How do we accept that? And then how do we integrate it? And what Dr. Sue taught me, how do we embody that? Well, I don't want to embody grief. Oh, yes, you do. No, I'm too afraid of that. No. And then when you embrace many of the things that they're grounding, they give you access to your wisdom. They give you what books gave me as a young person. They give you a pathway, a doorway, a journey into something so beyond what we could have conceptualized. That's what I love. There was another book that I had on the list, but it was called Schools Without Failure by Dr. Alan Glasser. And I remember reading this in high school, and just like I wrote a whole paper, and I actually got to do an independent study, and also I think by John Holt, Why Schools Fail. I can't remember the exact title, but I did a whole study on how do we educate children, as a 16-year-old, like, what kinds of things can you do to educate? Because so much of life skills we're not taught. They don't teach you at school.
No,
They
no,
just,
we don't learn some of the most important things. Nobody teaches us how to parent. Anyone can be a parent, anyone. And there are no, people write books, but personally, I think it's, the most important job in life. And there should be some kind of education for it.
Sending my nephew, they just had their second child. And so I was blessed to hold the little baby in my arms. And I just went, I can't believe how vulnerable and how precious he was 5 weeks old when I held him. And I was just like, I don't remember I don't remember as a mother feeling what I felt now when I would be a grandma. I don't remember feeling, because it was just like, that was your child, and you held that child, and that was it. That was your job, and you learned by doing. But I just felt when I held the little boy, it was just like, just what you said, nobody teaches you how to do it. And how do you even know that it's so tiny, so vulnerable, so precious? How do you know what to do? How does a parent know what to do?
Yeah.
But I don't remember feeling that at all with Dylan.
No. I have a friend who lost a son, similar age as Dylan was, and her relationship with him continued, originally through mediums and now through direct communication. And he is actually directing the direction she's gone in, her work has gone in, and it's amazing work that she does. Your relationship with Dylan, how much has it changed? Does he direct you in certain things now?
Yeah. I mean, I just love speaking with you. You ask, so I just love how you take the conversation. So thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's, Mom, we're doing this. And if I've tried in our relationship, if I've tried and said, no, son, it's like, he doesn't stop, so I've come to trust that. And it's really, it's beautiful. Yesterday I was swimming, and just, he's right there with me, and just remembering how much he loved the night sky. And, he'll just comfort me, because, I'll ask him questions like now, and it's just like, he calms me, he comforts me. He has obviously a different perspective where he is. And it's just so different when you're not, again, it's back to the theme of all the books. When you're not in this human form, when you're just the essence of who you are, your spirit, who are you? Are we truly made of energy that's compressed and becomes sound, vibration, and light? Is that what Dylan is now? And how do I feel him and hear him? And the beauty of this relationship that's timeless, and that I do know that I will be with him again, whatever that means. Yeah. So I am 1,000% just so grateful for the communication, if I'm driving in the car and I'm having communication with him, singing a song as I'm driving, or just whatever. It's just, he's as if he's here, but he's invisible, so yeah, he's, Mom, we're going to do this. Like, super, super, super cool is, I'm working together with Minerva University, and it was just announced that Minerva is it's based in San Francisco, but they have campuses all over the world where the students study. And it's a kind of university that Dylan would have really loved to attend. I write about it in the book. But now, for the fourth year in a row, they were voted the most innovative university in the world, over Stanford, over MIT, over Yale. Like, it's just, yeah, I'm very, and I feel like in a way he guided me to Minerva in a certain way. And then the money that I had saved for his college education, that went to Minerva scholarships. So there's kind of, it's really cool. There's and the Minerva students come from 109 different countries. So they're coming from all over the world. And that's how Dylan grew up. He grew up in Munich, went to an international school where many countries were represented, and they celebrated. The differences were celebrated, right? So he's, I guess, Sandie, he's in everything I'm doing, and definitely, giving mom a little push to the right or a little push to the left, and just reminding her, okay, mom, don't go there. Okay, mom, that's not a safe situation for you. You're not going to do that. Put a boundary up here, mom. I mean, I can feel, I can feel his guidance and protection. It's just not easy being a human being in this world now. And yeah, he's my light. And then he helps me ground that light in me, and work, from a place of integrity and strength and love. Just knowing, like, come on, mom, stay on the straight and narrow, mom, So keep on to our purpose, mom. We're here to help people through music really find light and embody that and live that. The themes that we've been talking about too, that help people to live their true authentic selves and be good with that, removing the question mark off their back. I'm so grateful, Sandie. I mean, I wish to God he was here, but my family reminds me, like, you're really blessed to have this communication, and keep nurturing that and sharing that so that other people can perhaps find that too, that might be difficult for them.
Yeah.
And yet it's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you continue, please.
It's sort of like, what is spirit, Sandie? The themes of what we've talked about, the theme, and I can be here now, like, what is it when we're not in this physical body anymore? What is it? And I think none of us really, really know. I mean, we have, like dear friend Anita Morjani, we have, near-death experiences, and we read about those things, but it's sort of like, we don't know till we get there.
There's something that's been occurring to me as you've been speaking, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. But when we lose someone that we love dearly, and find them, especially when you realize that you haven't actually lost them, you've only lost the physical presence, there must be something, and I don't know whether to call it joy, but something that then tells you that, in a way, there is a relief, because now you know you can never lose them.
Yeah.
We go through life and we worry about our children. They're out driving late at night, and, every parent has that fear at the back somewhere. You know that you can't lose him. You've lost the physical, but you know that he's always with you, which is not something that those who haven't lost someone necessarily get to experience and know for themselves.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I remember, I think I shared with you the first time playing the bowls and doing my own healing on myself, that I wept and groaned and keened for almost an hour. And I went to go wash my face, and there was light in my eyes. That was the first thing that it was like, and he was present with me in the room, guiding me. Like, I could feel this misty presence of him guiding me what to do with the bowls, and giving me this kind of permission to just wail. That was the first thing. And then, as you struggle through grief and find your way, and there's no one way for everyone. I do remember there was, because sometimes the agony is just like, it's so bad you don't know how to bear it. I remember there was a moment where I felt him become imprinted in my heart. Like, I could feel something that I was longing for and grieving about that some part, I don't know how to put it in words, some part of him got imprinted in my heart. And I remember the moment of just going, what you just said, like, I get it. You're always going to be a part of me now. Until the day I die, you are with me, no matter what. And, because people say lots of things, no matter what anyone says, I felt an implant, an imprint in my heart of his essence. I don't know how to put it in words. And just the feeling, that you bore this child in your body for 9 months. Like, he is so much a part of me from that, but this was something different. This was like really spirit essence, and like, we're together, Mom. Whether you then name it twin flames or whatever. I just know from the moment he was conceived and then born that there was such a connection beyond this time and space, beyond this human body. And that's what fascinated me as a child. Like, how could this lady be Bridie Murphy? Like, how could we hear now? Like, and what's the deep things that they're talking about in Damien and the prophet? Like, what is it beyond the beyond? And that's what, I don't know, my life has become an exploration of that through music. And I'm so blessed that music has been the medium that I get to explore in, because there's just so much possibility. But then the rest is a mystery, right? Even, I'm thinking about this great Sufi mystic, Hazrat Inayat Khan, and I love his writing. I mean, there's so many other writings that I just absolutely love. But Sandie, in the end, isn't it a mystery?
It is. It is. And we have to get to a place where we appreciate that it is a mystery.
Wow. And treasure that. And as you were saying, like, that you find joy in the unknown, joy in, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what this is all about. Yes, I do on one level, but the rest of it it's ineffable. It really is.
I'm only going to know when I look back. Yeah, but you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, because you want to enjoy the journey. Yeah.
Presence. Yeah. And that's again what books do. You sit with a book and you're present, and then if you get sleepy because your eyes are tired from reading, then you put the book down. But there's something about books that quicken you into this presence.
Yeah, that is so true.
Not all young people have that anymore, because, I remember the moment where
it's really sad. The kids come home from school, and what do? They go on their phone, and they're out there, on social media, instead of, I used to love coming home and, like you, sitting in my room and reading a book.
I know.
It was somewhere else.
I remember when Dylan got in high school and the computers were just coming out bigger and bigger, and he was like, Mom, I don't need, and he loved books, like I shared. I don't need to read books anymore. Everything's on the internet. It was like, oh no, no, son. He goes, I don't need to go to the library. Like, you can just Google it. And now you think with, AI, and it's just, how do we learn? How do we communicate what we're talking about, this deep sense of wisdom, timelessness, spirituality? How do you communicate that? I don't know. Can you find that on the internet? I don't know. It's just,
I remember going to the London Book Fair back in the 80s, and somebody showing me this little piece of round metal. Look, that's what it looked like to me, and said, on this CD, I didn't know what a CD was, and he had like the Britannica, the encyclopedias, the whole kit across the back of his stand, dozens of volumes. He said, they're all on this. Well, now, of course, it's all on the internet. But I remember looking at it and thinking, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what it means for the future of books. I don't know what it means about anything. I had no place to put it in my frame of reference. So I just kind of ignored it. But same thing. that your son, it's all there on the internet. But what are we missing? What are we missing?
And that comes out in your spirit so much. Like, again, like just these questions, I had to sit with it for some weeks and really do a deep dive. Like, what are the 10 most influential books and why? Wow. That was really deep question. I'm sure if we asked, a 20-year-old now, it would be it's a whole different thing. And
yeah, I wouldn't be able to ask that maybe in 30 years' time of people. What was the most important headline on your newsfeed? I don't know. We're almost out of time now. You said that grief cracked you open and sound helped you rebuild. What do you wish that people knew about healing, the healing power of sound and crystal alchemy bowls? I mean, for you, it helped you rebuild. What would you say to people? Because until you experience it, you can't imagine it.
I think sound and music with intention quiets your thinking mind. And so in that moment, you quicken. And in that quickening, a whole nother realm of possibilities are available to us. We're so used to living here. And what I find is especially the sound of the alchemy bowls, they open my heart, they open my gut wisdom, and they open here too. But it's like you can have a different experience. It's like what my singing teacher said as a young singer, like nothing vibrates here. Nothing vibrates in your head. You have to get in your body. That's, you've got your two little vocal cords, but your body has to vibrate. This is the instrument. It's like the cello or the violin or the flute or whatever it is. You have to give this body permission to vibrate because you have to amplify your sound. For me as a classical singer, over sometimes 100-piece orchestra and in a 3,000-seat theater, and there's no amplification. So it's sort of like if we think of our bodies as these incredible instruments that are, just not a scientist or a medical doctor, but just thinking about the body's chemistry and just all the, how do we heal when we cut ourselves and why does that happen? So I think a lot of healing can be natural, especially if we're guiding it. And a lot of, for me, what the sound can do is it really can help me go into where there's emotional wounding and help me feel it and breathe it without ever having to name a story. It can help, the sound can really help bring chemical balance in the body. It can help regulate our nervous system. And you go, okay, really, Jeralyn, like, how does it do that? Well, I lived it. I learned later that the sound is helping me reduce the production of cortisol. I'm not in fight or flight. I listen to the sound and I begin to relax deeply. And then my whole hormonal system, the body chemistry can really relax. It's strengthening the leukocytes in the blood. It's bringing more, which helps immunity. It's bringing more oxygen to the blood. Like when we allow these deeper states of relaxation, the sound tunes us. It brings harmony again. And it brings emotional balance where a pill can't get in there. There's a lot to say. Does that answer the question?
It does, and it answers it beautifully. You're absolutely right. Sound does bring us to a place of presence, of complete presence. Mm-hmm. You and I both know that sound frequency is the future of medicine. Do you find that exciting that you are you're working with this every single day? I mean, it must be. I find it exciting just knowing at last, that we're beginning to get the evidence of sound and frequency and what it can do, that a pill can't.
Yeah, I'm really diving deeper and deeper into this every day. And the Minerva Lab is growing, now it's in its second year and we're going to be doing more experimentation. I mean, they're doing devising experiments, and I've given them bowls to work with because I'm curious. I want to know what really happens. But just in watching, oh God, I mean, like, I had a health scare last year, and I was diagnosed with something where it was like, there's no way I have this. There's a misdiagnosis. I know that I don't have this, but I had to go through the procedure of about 4 months of testing all different things. In the end, it wasn't that. But, just to be in the traditional medical community and to say to the doctors, I don't believe I have this. And she's saying, but the evidence is here. And me saying, well, remember that we're dealing with a broken heart. We're dealing with a heart that was shattered. So before we take any kind of medication where there's no turning back from that, I need to find out if there's more work I need to do on my heart itself. Right. And so for me, I was just thinking this yesterday, like, we have choices when you're given diagnosis. And of course, there's certain things where you say, okay, I'm going to take this medication or I'm going to have this surgery. But like what they were talking about, for me, it was like, I think I'm going to be okay to say I don't want those meds because the side effect of those meds are not something I want to live with. I wouldn't want to live with that. And I just thought, okay, God, if this is an indication that I have this condition and my life will be shorter than I thought, then that's okay. And I mean, medicine is such a personal journey, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but it's just, I believe in the body's inherent ability to heal. And there's just so much with today's medicine, and living in Germany for, over 20 years, there was a different medical system than we have. And I'm sure in England, from what I've heard too, it's different than what we have in the United States. And I just feel like we look for what can fix it. Let me get rid of the pain as fast as possible. Let me get rid of that diagnosis. What can fix it? And yes, and I feel as this human instrument, I need to have the ability and the courage and the strength to go into those places where the illness is and find out what's underneath that. And is there something I can do? I mean, I know this is, medical doctors like, no, get her out of here. But I don't know, there's so many side effects from meds. And I experienced that with my own child. There's just so many side effects. And can we find a way? Can music be a natural healer? Well, it won't work for everybody, but and there's, again, no one size fits all. There's no particular prescription that I say, take an amethyst bowl that's a C note that's tuned to 528 hertz and that'll do it. And do that for 4 weeks and then you're going to feel better. It's this process for all of us of, where are the pains, where are the traumas, where are the buried emotions, where is the legacy I'm bringing in from my genealogy? Like, what is all that? And can I work with that? Do I have the courage to work with that? Or do I just want the quick fix and I go that way? And again, this is such a personal choice. It's just, but I've been realizing as I get older and I watch my 103-year-old teacher, like, yeah, she's just natural. She's natural. And is it possible to live a long life and a healthy life without having lots of medication and surgeries? And maybe for some people, I mean, we all have our own, it's a very personal choice. I would never say to anyone, don't do this or that. It's very, very personal. Can I help myself through my grief? Yes, I have. Can I help others? Yes, I can. Can I help the cancer patients? Yes, I can. Can I help the man with Parkinson's? Yes, I can. Will it sustain itself? Are they meant to pass away? That's a bigger question, I think, that's not in my hands.
Yeah. So before we close, tell us about your app, Source.
Okay.
What was the inspiration for that?
This is Source. This is Sandie. The inspiration was Dylan. Basically, 5 years ago, knock, knock, knock. I'm sitting on the sofa with my mom and friend, and he says, "Mom, we got to do an app." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And that's how it started. And the friend that was visiting us, she had a friend that actually made an app. And so the conversation came up and it was like, okay, contact this person. And that was the beginning of it. And the idea was, let's have one platform. He was like, Mom, it needs to be able to be in someone's back pocket, which you can access it from your phone. What connects science? What connects the healing power of music? What connects spirit? What is the commonality between all of this, and what does it have to do with us? So it was made as an easily accessible platform to see, like, for example, on the cover of the book is this image of the cymoscope, the image of a singing bowl made by the cymoscope from John Stuart Reid. So John is on the app, and John talks about, we show different F notes, and John talks about why they make the shapes they make. So you can actually see the shape of the sound from the crystal bowls on the app. Why is that important? Because our bodies are approximately 70% fluid. And so you can see when you're listening to the bowls, that shape is happening because the cymoscope uses water to make the images. That shape is happening in the fluids of our body. It's super coherent. It's beautiful. So the idea of the app was to create this bridge between the science behind sound, the spirituality behind sound. So like we just added a feature of extended music, so that there's hour pieces of music that people can also just listen to, fall asleep to, etc. There's Dr. Sue is on there, and she has body movement. She has her body awake yoga on there. So it's, how do we embody, and how do all these concepts that we've been talking about intersect, and why is it important for each of us? How does that help us to take our healing in our own hands? How does it help? Just like with the women that run with the wolves, there was something about that was so empowering for me. It gave me permission to be fierce in a way that, I wasn't. So that's the idea of the app, that it's, a minimum cost, and the proceeds from the app are going to support the Minerva Institute, are going to support the Minerva University, going to support the lab. So it's going to support research, because research in this field is, it's costly and it's very time consuming. And my scientist friends just say, keep doing what you're doing, because it'll take time for science to catch up. But like, for example, Dr. Daniel Levitin, famous neuroscience scientist, is on the app. Dr. Sue is on it. Victor Wooten, 5-time Grammy Award-winning bass player. We have a really cool piece called Bass and Bowls. So him really grooving with the bass, and then the bowls are fitting into that. There's beautiful Kevin James, Sakahachi flute. It's a handmade wooden flute together with the bowls. There's so many different, Jonathan Andy Goldman speaking about, for example, the power of humming. So it's bringing together Eileen McCusick, who's been on your tuning forks. She does a lot of things with the tuning forks and speaks to us about that. It was really, Dylan said, Mom, make a platform where it all comes together so people can explore. What is this? Do I like tuning forks? Do I prefer the singing bowls? Do I like to do the body awake yoga? Oh, what happens when I hum? Now that helps me to tune. So again, not being a one size fits all, but finding what resonates with you, and where does all that intersect, and what does it have to do with our health and wellness? So I'd love for anybody to explore the app. It's on both app stores, from Google and from Apple. So, and
I love apps, because you've got it right there.
Yeah.
Every minute, any minute of the day, you've got it there. You can listen to things at night. You've always got it with you. That's where technology wins, as far as I'm concerned. So we come down to the last question, and we ask this of every guest. Steve Jobs famously gave every attendee at his memorial a copy of Autobiography of a Yogi. What book would you want to pass on to your memorial guests?
I have complete goosebumps. I don't know why. Just have complete goosebumps. Wow. Definitely would be a spiritual book. I don't know, maybe The Prophet? I didn't think about this one. This was a surprise question, Sandie.
I know. Yeah.
Gosh.
The Prophet's a good one. You know, it's a keeper. It's small. You know, it's portable. It's bite-sized. You can, just read one chapter at a time and take all you want from that and not read another one for 5 years, but it's all meaningful.
Or Louise
It's one
Hay.
of those kinds of books.
Or the Louise Hay book.
Or Louise Hay. Except most people have probably got that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. There's another, I don't know, that's not what I would give, but another thing comes to mind when you ask now. I loved Thornton Wilder, Our Town. And I loved that quote from that book that says there is a land of the living and a land of the dead. Something like this. Sorry, I don't want to misquote it, but and the bridge is love.
Do you know, I have to share something with you, because talk about synchronicity. I have just been listening to an Audible book, a novel, and I have to say it is the most impactful Audible book I've ever listened to. And it's called Tom Lake, and it's by Anne Patchett. And it's about, a girl who ends up playing the part of Emily in Our Town. Now, I've never known Our Town. I know that it's something that Americans know about, but I didn't. This book, I tell you what makes it so magnificent. I mean, a fantastic story, but the narrator is probably the best narrator in the world. It's Meryl Streep narrating this book, and she turns that into such an incredible performance, and you're just listening to it, and it is just it's taken it to a whole other level. And it's interesting that you just mentioned Our Town.
Wow. I will definitely listen to that.
Listen to that book. Oh my God, is it good? It is good. Mm.
So I think that would be the message that I would love to leave. I don't know about it in a book, but there's a land of the living and a land of the dead, and the bridge is love. Again, he says it much more beautifully than I'm quoting it, but yeah.
And you know that. You know it. You experience it.
Yeah.
Jeralyn Glass, I don't want to let you go, but we have to.
Big hug, hug.
Thank you so much for adding your 10 best list of spiritual books to the No BS Spiritual Book Club's library.
You gave me a very challenging and wonderful assignment, so thank you, Sandie.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did.
So I have a few words for our viewers. Jeralyn's story reminds us that grief can be a portal, not just to healing, but to a new kind of presence, that when life splits us open, something sacred can still sing through the cracks. Sometimes the books that find us are less about learning and more about remembering. And sometimes sound carries what words cannot. So here's something to sit with. What if the voice you're looking for, the one that heals, guides, and reminds you who you are, has been yours all along, and all you needed was the frequency to hear it? Sacred Vibrations, The Transformative Power of Crystalline Sound and Music, Jeralyn Glass's book, is published by Hay House. For more information about Jeralyn's events, experiences, book, Crystal Sound Healing Oracle Deck, and her app Source, visit her websites at crystalcadence.com and JeralynGlass.com. That's it for this week. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. I'll be back at the same time next week with another 10 best interview for the No BS Spiritual Book Club. Till then, it's goodbye from me, and thank you again to Jeralyn Glass.
If today's conversation sparked your curiosity, you'll love our other shows. The Synergy Sessions, where leading-edge thinkers collide in bold, unscripted dialogues that ignite new possibilities between realms and reason. where we journey into the mysterious consciousness, energy, and the hidden layers of reality, where science converges with spirit in ways you've never imagined. And the No BS Spiritual Book Club, where leading-edge new thought speakers, teachers, authors, and luminaries who've walked this path before you share the 10 books that had the biggest impact on their life journey. All 3 shows are available on YouTube, Spotify, Substack, and all major podcast platforms. For more information, visit sedgbeer.com. That's SEDGBEER.com.